All right, welcome back to the Volkswagen channel. We haven't put out a VW video in about 10 years. Looking back, the video that we did for the Mk7 GTI, that was the top DSG video on YouTube for a little while. So today we're gonna do a DSG fluid change again on a Mk7. This is a 2017. Over here we've got our parts. We're gonna be doing this in the most budget-friendly and easiest way possible. That's the goal of this video. We're gonna make it really short and concise, show you exactly what you need to do. So we're using liquid moly. There's gonna be 5 quarts of this stuff, approximately. And then the method that we're using for filling the transmission is, this is a $50 fill tool. It basically screws onto the drain hole for the transmission, and it allows you to pump the fluid using gravity. We're gonna hold the bottle like this, pump the fluid up into the drain hole. It's the easiest way. It's not the fastest way, but it's what's gonna work for us. And then our DSG filter as well. So we're gonna get the car up in the air on ramps and get going. A quick overview of the tools we're gonna need today. We've got a torque wrench. You're gonna need some pliers for different clips on hose clamps. I think on the intake there's some. 14 millimeter Allen. This is for the DSG fluid drain plug on the bottom. And then an 8 millimeter for the little measuring device, a little plastic thing that comes out on the inside of the drain plug. You're going to need a 13 millimeter for battery box stuff, a 24 millimeter for the plastic oil filter housing, the DSG fluid filter housing, and then some extenders. Always nice to have. Your wrenches, of course, 10 millimeter. You're going to need that for a few things. I think battery box, a 7 millimeter for some of the intake stuff, flathead screwdriver. I recommend having a pan where we can get the fluid into and we can pour and measure it. We're going to be doing the measure and fill method. It's the easiest method. That's what I did on my Mk7 GTI, and although I don't have that car anymore, we still see it driving around, and I'm sure it's got 160,000 miles now. So measure and fill is what we're doing. It works just fine. You're going to need a Ryobi drill. It's got to be Ryobi, otherwise it's not going to work. And a T25 for the little splash tray retaining clips on the bottom of the car. So a pretty critical step in doing any car project is getting it up in the air and secured properly. So we have metal ramps in the front. I'm also going to be using either slide-in jack stands or a large hydraulic just to have a little extra support there just in case this flipped over. And then in the rear, we used 2 race jacks just to get it up a little bit. And we did it on both sides actually. And then we'll put some jack stands in there as well, so that everything is nice and sturdy and you have some redundancy. And then since we're going to be draining a fluid, we're using a level just on the bottom door sill to see that the car is nice and level before we drain. That way you get nice, consistent results. Next step after getting the car up in the air is we got to remove the air filter box, the battery in the battery box, some pliers for the clamps. I believe there's maybe a 13 and a 10 millimeter to get all this stuff out of the way so we can get to the DSG filter housing. Clamp out of the way. Down here there's a hose, and you just press the 2 sides and it'll slide off nice and easy. It comes up. Now these boxes are just secured by a couple rubber connectors, so it should just kind of pull up. You can kind of shimmy it out of the way like that. Next we're going to remove the battery. That just takes a 10. Negative terminal first. Just push that out of the way. These cables just have a little push connector. You can show them. That sits in there, so we just pull that out of the way, and then when we put it back, it'll just pop right back in there. This should be a 13 millimeter here on the battery box. So with that battery retainer bolt out, it'll now slide out. Luckily the batteries on these cars are not that heavy. So now we can take the battery tray out. There is a 10 millimeter here, there, and there. I believe there is only 3. So we'll take those out and then it should just come right up. The one tricky part is the third battery box hole. It's kind of behind the headlight, and if you don't want to take the headlight out, you need to use a bendy arm like this or maybe a swivel to get the 10 millimeter down in there. All right, so I was wrong. There is not 3, there is 4 10 millimeters that hold the battery tray. The 4th is back here. You just push this cable clip out of the way, and then that gets you access to this 10 millimeter right here. Okay, so the battery box is loose now on all 4 points, and it's connected. It's got this baffle here. This is connected down onto the transmission, it appears, and it's some kind of vent. It doesn't need to come off right away. You can actually just tilt the battery box like that. So that doesn't need to come off. And now we have access to our DSG filter housing. Okay, so we're ready to take the filter housing off, and it can be a little bit messy. So what we want to do is have a plastic bag down here next to it to hold the filter over if we need to hopefully catch some of the drips. And then we've got some paper towels to keep it from dripping down too much as well. 24 millimeter. Gonna prepare another bag for the filter. And I also want to point out that we're doing the filter on top before we've done anything under the car. We haven't opened the drain or anything like that. And that's because we want this open when we're draining the fluid, and we're also going to have this open on top when we're adding the fluid, because it's going to release some of that pressure in there and allow the fluid to go in and out a lot easier. Well, that's actually not too bad how much came out. I was expecting more. Safety first. All right, today's sponsor is Flash Dry. The brand sent these out to us. And what these do is they catch your automotive fluids so you don't leave a stain on the ground. They make mopping it up a lot easier than, say, like one of those blue paper towels. Those are really thin. These do a much better job. And since we took the cap off the DSG fluid filter housing on the top, I'm starting to see some drops underneath the car. So this is going to help catch all that stuff. Go ahead and follow me under here. So we'll just put that right there, catch all the drips, and prevent a huge mess. So we're just about to start draining, and the method that we're using for knowing how much fluid to put in is the measure fill method. And we did this on the Mark 5 in our other video, and we didn't have any problems with it. The car is still driving around today. I don't own it anymore, but it lives close by. And we've really had no issue doing this measure fill method. The standard VW procedure involves using a computer to measure the temperature and let excess drip out. What we're going to do is we're going to collect all the fluid, measure it, and put the exact same amount back in. And because we're safety first, we're going to put some little backup jacks here on the control arms next to the ramps. And what's really great about this 2017, and I don't know if all of the Mark 7s are like this, is there is no splash tray here. I don't know if it came off or what, but this is as easy access as it gets. I came down here, and here's our 14 millimeter drain plug. So we're gonna drain the transmission right from there. Good thing we got our Flash Dry pads ready, baby. Yeah, this will be good. You know, it really doesn't look that bad. Yeah. Your fluid. Yeah. Well, how many miles are we at? We're a little over the...
Yeah, I think I'm close to 70.
Yeah. They recommend every 40 is when you want to do it. But I remember I did the Mark 5 around 62.
Yeah.
Oh. That's not me, I promise. So I almost forgot. We're wondering why it's coming out so slow. There is a little plastic funnel that sticks up inside the transmission, and you use your 8 millimeter to take that out through the drain hole as well. And that's for measuring the fluid properly if you're putting the transmission fluid up into it and doing the process of heating it up so that it will just flow over that kind of like a dam and come out. So anyway, we got to take it out to drain. There we go. Before you start filling, don't forget to put the plastic funnel back in. Okay, we're all set up to use the tool for pumping the fluid up into the transmission. So basically this is just done by gravity. We've got a valve here. We're just going to kind of squeeze it going up into the car.
Yep.
Okay. So once you get to the bottom of the bottle, you'll see that air is going to start coming through, and that's when you twist this valve to close it. And then you're able to take the bottle off and move to the next bottle. You can see we kind of had to crumple it to squeeze all of it out, but that's how you get it out. That's how you get all this bottle out into this tool. So we've put 3 quarts in through the bottom. And what we need to do in order to do the measure fill method, where we're measuring how much came out and putting the same amount back in, is we're only going to do 3 through the bottom. And the final 2, or maybe it's 1.5, depending on our measurements, are going to go through the top. And it shouldn't be too much of a deal with this hose, because we'll still be able to put it on a bottle, or potentially, if we're lucky, we'll be able to fit a funnel and we can just pour it through the top. The ideal situation, and if we weren't doing this like complete budget, this video is complete budget, we would have gotten the proper funnel size for the top, because then you can pour it in without worrying about the size of that tiny hole that needs to get through the top. But we can only do 3 through the bottom, because if we do any more, when we take that tool out of the bottom, we might start losing fluid, and we don't want to do that, so that we know that we have the perfect amount. So on the 3rd bottle, in order to clear the line and not waste any, I'm just putting a little air in here, and I'm going to blow the rest of the fluid up into the transmission. So we're going to put the plug back in underneath the car, and the torque spec is 33 foot-pounds. Okay, so now we're to the fun part of measuring the fluid, and there's different ways you can do it. Our tray is really flimsy, so I can't pick it up to pour it. So we're just going to use a fluid transfer pump. You could also use like a scoop of some kind if you want. But ultimately what we're going to do is measure out exactly how much fluid is coming out of this. And the way we're doing that is we're using a quart bottle. It doesn't really matter what measuring device you use, as long as you can actually see the measurements. The DSG fluid bottles don't have any markings on them. I thought they would. That's why we kind of got to this point we're using a different bottle. But just make sure you have a way to measure. So we'll just measure it out, fill it up, dump it into our waste thing, and then we'll know exactly how much needs to go back into the transmission. Are you at 70,000?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, so you can see the transmission fluid there at 70,000, what that looks like. It's a little over the 40 recommended, but as it was pouring out, it didn't look as dark as like a motor oil, but definitely a little dark, and certainly time to do it here at 70,000 miles. So we just finished measuring our last bottle here, and we ended up with 4 quarts and about 17 ounces. It's essentially 4.5 quarts. And then accounting for losses. So if you look in the drain pan here, there's probably an ounce in there that we couldn't get out. There might be half an ounce in there. There might have been half an ounce on the ground that spilled out, right? So just accounting for a couple ounces, I think it's safe for us to put about 4 quarts and 20 ounces in there, and then it should be almost exactly what came out. And I think Volkswagen from the factory, they do overfill these just a little bit, because when we're emptying it out, when we first crack it, about a quart comes out, and that's before the measuring stick even comes out. So they're overfilling it a little bit. We don't want to underfill it, and by doing this method, we're making sure that we're putting in about the same amount that was in there, and it's maybe just a little overfilled from the factory, but it's not a problem because Volkswagen's doing it on all of them. We're lucky here because we actually have a funnel that fits almost perfectly down in that hole. So that allows us to pour the quart right into the filter housing, measure out exactly how much we need. So we lucked out, but definitely get a funnel or a kit that you know is going to fit. And actually, I'll leave a link in the description because I have one from my old DSG video. I'll send you a link on how to find the right filter size to go right on here directly from Amazon. We've added all our DSG fluid. Now we just need to put the new filter in, and it comes with a new seal. So we're just going to grease this up a little bit and use a flathead to take off the old one. You want to get a little bit of the DSG fluid on this so that when it goes in, it doesn't bind up at all and it stays in position. The filters look different. This looks different than the one that came out of the car, but it is still a manufacturer approved design. Some look like this, some look like the honeycomb ones, but they're equally good. And it basically just pops down on there. It'll click and give you a little splash too, if you're lucky. That's what she said.
Leave that in.
This is kind of hand tight. You don't want this super tight. And with that, we're all done. We're just going to put everything back together in reverse order, and it's all good. Dude.